While the presidential elections will be at the top of everyone's mind this fall, it is important that we do not overlook our local school board elections in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic and the uncertainty surrounding in-person instructions. School board members will have a more critical role than ever in our children's educational futures and in their overall health and well-being. With that in mind, I took some time to sit down with retired educator Maryann Wright, who recently announced her campaign for Richland District 2 School Board, to learn about her priorities and her thoughts on how to safely and effectively get our schools back to the business of educating our children. Maryann, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for asking. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to sit down with me today. I want to start off. Tell me a little bit about yourself for those who might not know you.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, I am a parent of Nicole and Nicholas. Nicholas is a graduate of Ridgeview High School here in Richland 2 School District. I am a retired educator. I taught and was in the classroom for 29 years, teaching middle school and high school, mostly high school. I am originally from South Carolina, Georgetown County, so I'm a low country girl, and I love all things low country. I am retired, as I said earlier, and living here in Columbia. I was a military wife for over 20 years, and retired from teaching and moved back here in 2010. All my adult life, I've tried to involve myself in activities and endeavors that positively affect others' lives, and I find that this is a perfect niche for me in that I'm very much involved in my community and several community service and community organizations rather that seek to improve the lives of everyone in our community.
Okay, so tell me, what made you decide to run for school board and why now?
Well, actually, there are a couple of reasons why I decided to run for school board. One of them is because it was brought to my attention a little while ago within an organization that I belong to that there was a real need for mental health counselors in our schools. And the reason I said that there's a real need for that is because there was a 2017 study that I was privy to that talked about suicide being the second leading cause of death among children 10 to 19. I find that unconscionable that a 10-year-old could even contemplate taking their lives. On any given day, most of our children are engaged with others at school, other children, adults, teachers, administration, and so forth, more so than they are with their parents. And I really think it's important for the school district to be able to meet the needs of our most vulnerable. And by meeting the needs of our most vulnerable, I think it's important for each school in the district to place a mental health professional, not a school psychologist, not a guidance counselor. Those jobs are important, but they're not what we really need to meet the needs of these young people and make sure that their emotional and mental health is being taken care of.
Mm-hmm. What with the situation that we face now with the pandemic and the virus, what do you feel that school administrators and the school board's focus should be on getting kids back to school safely or getting back into some routine?
Well, I read and been keeping up with what Richland 2 has been doing, and at this point they've come up with a 1, 2, 3 phase-in approach to ultimately getting all of our children back in person school. But starting out, everything is going to be virtual, either through a virtual school or through what they're called 2 e-learning, where the kids are teamed up with a teacher, and but there still is no contact. And that's going to be the case until the virus load, which is high, until it moves to a medium. And to be honest with you, I myself need some clarity on what is meant by high and medium, and what kind of numbers are we looking at that determine when we're going to move from high to a medium. And when we get to the medium, according to their plan, then we're looking at what's called AA and BB school, where high schools, I believe 6th grade on through 12th grade actually, will be in school 2 days a week, and the other 3 days they'll do some type of e-learning. At that point, they're looking at actually creating what are called community classrooms for kindergarten through 5th grade, where the kids will actually be in person in school with a teacher. They stay in that classroom all day, and they have their lunch brought to them, so there isn't a lot of interaction, with others during the school day. And then once the virus load reaches what is called low, and again, I'm not sure what those numbers represent, but that's something that I am definitely interested in getting clarity. And at that point, when the virus is considered low, then over a period of several weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, they'll gradually start to have the kids come back in person over a gradual pace over those 2 weeks. As a board member, I would definitely do all I can to make sure that parents are informed, that they have full disclosure, all of the pertinent information that they need in order for them to make an informed decision about whether or not they're going to move their kids from where they are into a different situation. I think that's very, very important that we do that.
Now, do you agree with this approach that District 2 is implementing?
Well, I have to tell you, I think District 2 has done a really good job with electronically keeping parents informed. I believe their first update started on March 9th, if I'm not mistaken, and they've given periodic updates over time, all the way up through graduations and that type of thing. So I think they've done a good job with that. My concern, though, is whether or not parents in households that aren't electronically connected, there is that digital divide that we still find that everyone doesn't have access to the internet. So I'm concerned about whether or not those families got information in a timely manner. Again, I think what should drive our decision as to whether we move from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3 has to be hard data. And I'm talking scientific data. Data from CDC and data from DHEC, Department of Health and Environmental Control. One thing I'll say, though, is that on the website for Richland 2 School Board, they have direct links that you can click on to access what the CDC is saying about the virus and what DHEC's recommendations are about the virus. There's information there on the website about how to stay safe, how to protect yourself, hand washing and other types of hygiene type behaviors. So I think overall Richland 2 has done a good job as far as getting parents the information that they need. But again, I think the movement from one phase to another should be based on hard data, data from CDC, data from DHEC, and parents should make the ultimate decision.
Okay. And speaking of children that may be don't have access to internet at home, I know Congressman Clyburn often speaks of making sure that everybody in the rural areas are connected. It's still in some of our urban areas, we see that you find students at night going to the library parking lot to utilize the internet. What is District 2 doing in terms to reach and identify those students, and do you know, or will you be working on implementing any type of plan to reach those unconnected students? Yes,
I definitely have some ideas on how to bridge that digital divide, and not necessarily doing the traditional things that have been done, like you said, with public buildings like the library or the Y, being able to offer Wi-Fi to the members of the community. There are other ways to do that as well, and I think the first thing we should do is start with the schools, and I think what we need to do is to survey our students to find out who actually has internet service and who doesn't. And based on that information, then we can make some other decisions. For example, when we're buying our electronic equipment, I know all the kids get Chromebooks now. We need to look at the capability of these devices on whether or not you can download information so that kids that don't have access to the internet, they don't need it because it's already downloaded in the device when they get it. Okay. Or perhaps future assignments can be downloaded onto a thumbnail and can be given out periodically as kids go through the year, through the semester, through the marking periods. That would be one way of looking at it. Also, I think it's important for the school district to partner with businesses in the community. And one of the ways that they can do that is that they're actually portable hotspots that the school district can lease. And kids can check it out just like they check out a book from the library. They can check it out and take it home with them so that they have access to the internet for that particular assignment. And they can return it, or keep it depending on how the school works that out. There is an organization, a nonprofit organization called Everyone On. And they work with local businesses, internet providers like Spectrum, for example, to provide low-cost internet to poor families that lack funds, and also computers as well, so that they can get low-cost computers for low-income families. And then also, the other thing that they're doing too is that they're offering training on how to use the devices so that when they make contact with these low-income parents, they're not just saying, well, here. They actually say, here, and we're going to show you how to use this so that it benefits you and your children.
Okay. What are your thoughts, or what is District 2 doing in terms of staffing capacity in training teachers to be able to teach virtual learning? What's going on with that part of it?
I think the district again has, considering how everything happened so quickly in the spring, we had to kind of scramble because things happened very, very quickly. But I think the district did an admirable job making sure that the students had what they needed. There were days set up for them, for parents to come in and pick up materials and that type of stuff for their kids if they weren't able to take it with them before school closed. The district also provided training, workshops throughout the time that school was closed and over the summer on how to better utilize e-learning. So I think that they've done a good job when it comes to preparing for this pandemic, considering how rapidly everything happened. So I give them good marks on that.
Okay. Maryann, you spent several years in the classroom as an educator, and I'd like to thank you for that service. But do you possess any other professional experience that would help you move into this role, being a school board commissioner, that would you could utilize the talents you may have learned or picked up in the private sector that would benefit the school district?
Well, actually, my career has been in education, 29 years. So I don't have technically professional experience, but I have involved myself throughout my adult life with activities and endeavors that positively impact other people's lives to better our community. I am a founding member of a couple of nonprofits that are actually advocacy groups for women and girls. and I've assumed leadership and officer responsibilities with those organizations. It allows me to be of service to the community, to be an advocate for those who cannot speak for themselves. In addition to being founding members of those two organizations, I'm also a member of several other community service-based organizations, nonprofits that are actively involved in doing things and petitioning our public officials so that they implement fair and just practices so that everyone in the community actually benefits from these programs and implementations that are done. So I feel like I have the experience, not necessarily professional, but because this is something that I feel drawn to do, to be of service to my community, I've always been involved in some shape, way, or form of some type of community service and involvement where I give to my community. I live here and I want it to be as good as it can be. I want it to be beyond our wildest expectations. And I think if we put in the effort and the time to really look at the way things are and then figure out a way to make them better, I think it's a win-win for everyone.
Okay. If elected to the school board, what would be your top 3 issues?
Well, if I were elected, what I would do is to seek to have more input from the community. I think it's important for all of us to be heard about issues that affect our children. They're our most precious commodity. And I think in order for the school board to be effective, I think they need to get input from the community as well. So that's something that I will strive to make sure we get input from students, from parents, from educators, from anyone who is a part of the community. As I said, we all need to be heard. The other thing that I think is important, and I mentioned earlier, is that I'm concerned about the emotional and mental health of our young people, and especially now with COVID in the mix. It just exacerbates the situation. We have kids now more so than ever that are suffering from depression and anxiety because of the time in which we're living. So I think it's important and it's really imperative for the school district to address those needs. And by addressing those needs, I think it's important for them to be sensitive not just to the physical health of our children, but also the mental and emotional health as well. And I think one way to address that would be to place a full-time mental health professional in every school. And that's what that person does. They deal with the emotional and mental health of the students. They're not guidance counselors, they're not the school psychologists. Their job is to be there for those children and deal with them and their issues.
Okay. Maryann, I'd like to thank you for taking time to sit down with us. But before I let you go, I'd like you to take for a minute and just turn to the camera, speak into the camera, and speak to the voters about why they should elect you.
I feel that I am the best candidate for Richland 2 School Board because I have the desire, I have the determination to give to my community. And by giving to my community, I want to make sure that every child in our community gets an appropriate and equitable education. And as a school board member, that is something that I would fight for every day to make sure that our district is allocating their resources to meet the needs of our students. I also feel that it is important for our kids to stay in school because they all deserve, as I said earlier, an appropriate and equitable education. And if they aren't in school, they're not going to be able to get that education. That's in-person school or virtual school. So I think it's important for us to look at reasons why kids are being suspended and implement programs that actually help reduce the number of suspensions. And a lot of those programs employ restorative justice practices that have been proven over and over again to actually have kids involved and coming up with solutions to their issues, how that actually reduces the overall number of suspensions from school. So those are things that I feel very strongly about. Those are things that I will fight for. And in addition to those things, I feel that it's important for our school district to continue to focus on student achievement. I think we need to implement the most rigorous curriculum that there is, because our kids deserve that. So we need to continue to focus on student achievement, student growth, and student well-being. Those are things that I will fight for.
Maryann, thank you, and good luck to you.
Thank you.